to episode 273 of Late Night Linux, recorded on the 11th of March 2024. I'm Joe, and with me are Phelim.
How's it going?
Graham.
Good evening.
And Will.
Hello.
A couple of episodes ago we did Voice of the Masses, and I thought it was good fun, so let's do it again. The question that I posed on Mastodon was, what's pulling you away from open source and what will pull you back? Now, just a clarification about this. Someone assumed that we were going to do the same question every time about the keeping your kids safe online. No, the idea is it's a different question each time.
The kids are safe now.
And people have complained, oh, it's a very vague question. Well, yeah, that's the point, to try and, get a bit of discussion going. It's not like, what kernel version are you using? That's not going to be a very interesting question, is it? It's very specific, but it's not a very interesting discussion. Anyway, again, we got loads of replies. Sean said, I live in a house with normal people, so things like mesh networks need an app that someone can use if I'm run over by a bus. I want them to remember me fondly after my unfortunate bus interaction. Multiply this example out, and I've whittled it down to an open source server which serves media and is a backup repository. Everything else in the house is an app. I have a lot of sympathy with that position. You don't want people to have to rely on you too much, do you? Sometimes you just give the rest of the family an iPad or whatever and let them get on with it.
I'm seeing a theme here because I'm just as hopeless as the last question at this, and I think my family's screwed and they're better off throwing it all out than just starting again.
Yeah, that's my opinion as well. When I'm gone, then just rip it all out.
I was working out the answer in my head. It's like, well, yeah, there's a really easy to use Home Assistant panel, and then, okay, what happens when Home Assistant goes down? It's like, no, yeah, you're screwed.
Well, they just need to learn how to code. I mean, I don't see what the problem is.
It's only Python.
Yeah, come on.
I like to take a bit of a sort of additive approach to the systems at home where if they're all up and working, then they combine to be a more useful thing. But if any one of them is down, the whole system does not grind to a halt. And it's quite difficult to structure it in this way, especially with things like Pi-hole, where if DNS is down, the internet might as well be down. But Pi-hole's pretty reliable. That's probably the major failure point. Everything else, I think, is decentralized to the point where the solar panels will charge the battery on their own internal system, and that is a commercial off-the-shelf system. The heating will fall back to just, a button that you press and it makes it go on. That's okay. Everything else is just like media consumption, and that's fine. Just get Netflix. So I think it's possible to have an open source smart home. I know that's not the question, but I think it is possible to have an open source smart home which does not just fail closed and still gives people the opportunity to interact.
Oh, that's interesting. I thought that if the tech went down, you were just fucked and just had no heating.
No, because the internet is still flaky enough that when it's down, you still want to be able to turn the lights on and off, And we've seen examples of this in the last couple of years where there was an AWS outage and now suddenly nobody was able to unlock their car. Those kind of examples just make me think we should not do it that way. That's wrong.
I am writing a document for my house, and I know we've had projects where people have got this.
You have failed.
I know, well, clearly I have failed, but the thing is, what happens if the fucking hot water tank is leaking? How do you turn that off? Well, you go into the attic and you turn this valve off with a photo of that valve that can only be turned off with a flathead screwdriver. Good fucking luck finding one of them. But I have taped one to the side of the cold water tank in the attic. Things like that, where you're thinking, if shit's literally pissing down the fucking staircase, how quickly can I solve this issue? Like, which valve do I turn off the quickest and open the taps in the bath to drain that water as quick as possible? Like, it's...
No, I'm sorry, Phelim, your house sounds more like an escape room.
There is something to be said for having, like, for example, a fire escape plan, right? I've read about people having these things, mainly in America, where if there's a fire, the kids are drilled into what they're going to do and how it all works. I don't think we really have that problem here, but there is something to be said for, I don't know, if there's a gas leak, then this is what you do, and if there is a water leak, here's where the stopcock is. That sounds like a pretty good idea. I just don't think I'd ever get round to it.
I'm not saying I've gotten round to it. It's in planning, but I mean,
All right, well, Phoenix said, sometimes the urge to play along with other people, e.g. WhatsApp. And Thomas said, convergence and interoperability across devices between family, phone, laptop, tablet. You just can't do it gracefully with open source. And Noodles also talked about interacting with normal people. But Noodles said, what pulls me back, however, is deciding that if people want to do things their way all the time, I should have the right to make it go the other way around. Good luck with that, is what I can say. I mean, even you, Phelan, have cracked and used WhatsApp, albeit without Google services, so you just check it at your leisure.
I did until it... I don't know what happened, but for some reason I had to reinstall it, and then it went, oh, yeah, you've no history in any of these groups. And I was like, well, fuck right off then, and then I deleted it. So it's Signal and Telegram only now.
Right.
I was prepared to just leave it on for stuff like that, but it booted me out of a load of groups. I don't know what the fuck happened. But yeah, I was at that point, I was like, well, I'm not rejoining all those because that'll be a nightmare to set up.
Well, Stephen teaches a digital literacy course, which means that he has to use Windows and Microsoft 365, but he sneaks in references to Nextcloud and other FOSS where possible. And he said that Pandoc is a great way to make PowerPoint slides. I'd never heard of Pandoc.
Yeah, it's like this super powerful text processing system. It can convert like almost any format to any other format and do a load of processing in between.
Oh, right.
It is quite widely used, yeah.
I like the idea of sneaking in little references to Foster. So well done, Stephen. Gaming was a huge one. Jens said, I use hand-me-down stuff only for my stationary computer, and since most graphics cards are NVIDIA, I play a few games, and that means proprietary drivers have to be there. And Stig said PUBG, and Digital Fox mentioned Discord and Easy Anti-Cheat.
Discord? We've got a Discord channel, I'm in it.
Yeah, Discord is proprietary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, any website is generally proprietary technically anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, but most people don't use the website, they use an app.
Right, okay, fair enough.
But Digital Fox said, I think it'd take my friends switching to open alternatives to pull me back. Mergin, I think that's how you say it, said anti-cheat, as did Ethan. It seems like gaming and anti-cheat stuff is still keeping people on Windows. I mean, Will, you don't like to talk about it, but I'm pretty sure it keeps you on Windows, doesn't it?
It does, and it keeps the kids on Windows as well, because it all is designed to work on Windows, and you know it's going to work.
What games do you have, Will, that are anti-cheat, that block you?
Fortnite's the big one. The kids all play Fortnite all weekend.
Because you tried gaming on Linux, didn't you? You bought an SSD specifically for it.
Yeah, it's still there, and Proton still amazes me, and everything not everything, but a lot of stuff works brilliantly. But if I have to boot into Windows at all, then what's the point in booting into Linux just to play a game in Linux for the sake of it? It just doesn't seem worth it to me anymore.
You're dead to me, Will.
It's just laziness. That's what it boils down to. That's the main difference, is laziness, that I just don't want to have to put effort and admin into something which is supposed to be a leisure activity. I just want it to work. I've done 20-something years of spending my weekends recompiling the kernel, and I'm done with that now. Either it works for me or it can fuck off.
Well, Ian said proprietary CAD software is a very, very long way ahead of FOSS-CAD. And ZS had a lot of issues with Home Assistant and went back to smart things. That surprised me, that one, because I hear such good things about Home Assistant if you want to have Internet of Shit in your house.
Yeah, and I'm so paranoid of getting locked into some other system now, or something being made redundant by no longer being supported. I've got a Piper night vision camera that from a long time ago, admittedly, a crowdfunding campaign that just stopped working this week. There's nothing I can do about it. And yeah, Home Assistant or an open source solution is just one of those things that I find really important.
Well, Danila and family all use Linux, but Linux phones aren't there yet, so settles for Android with as many open source apps as possible. That seems like a reasonable compromise. And that's sort of what I do. I've got this Pixel, but I will look on F-Droid first if I want something new. Like Inatune that I talked about a couple of weeks ago, which I've been using more and is absolutely great and I recommend highly. I didn't even look on the Play Store because I knew it was open source, so I just went straight to F-Droid. All right, well, Maya said, capitalism, communism. And BT said, it's privacy that keeps me as FOSS as possible. The amount of telemetry that non-FOSS pulls from us is remarkable.
Yep.
The downside is the continual road bumps with FOSS, which is understandable given that large profits do not drive FOSS. And Shardra said, pulling me away, convenience. Pulling me back, ethics. I've landed on the side of ethics wherever possible, though.
Good.
That's very much you, isn't it, Phelan?
Suck that stubbornness in. Gives you strength.
But you're so tired from doing all the work, the extra work that you have to do to be righteous.
No, I just tell other people that if they want to meet me, they can meet me in my Foss area. If they don't, they can get stuffed. Unless it's really easy to set up, and then maybe I'll just use it.
Like Discord, for example.
Or Teams in a Chromium browser, which is literally the only thing it gets used for.
Yeah, it's funny. Last time you were talking about Teams, and it made me think. So recently you've talked about loving AI and now Microsoft stuff.
Oh,
I don't know what's
totally.
happened to you, man. You've changed.
Oh, I've changed, yeah. I've got a picture of Balmer here with a set of rosary beads around it.
Okay, this episode is sponsored by Tailscale. Go to tailscale.com/LNL. Tailscale is an easy-to-deploy, zero-config, no-fuss VPN that allows you to build simple networks across complex infrastructure. It's super simple to set up, and you can have machines and devices all over the world connected to each other as if they're on the same LAN in minutes. Tailscale is WireGuard on easy mode, and that's why loads of late-night Linux family hosts are Tailscale users. Amalith from Linux DevTime uses Tailscale for his 3D printers, all his servers, and his home automation. And Gary from Linux After Dark and I both send our offsite backups to our parents' houses using Tailscale. So support the show and check out Tailscale for yourself. Go to tailscale.com/LNL and try Tailscale out for free for up to 100 devices and 3 users with no credit card required. That's tailscale.com/LNL. Let's do some discoveries then. Will, what is Telstar?
Would you believe it if I told you it's something from the past?
No way.
Yeah. So, back in the good old days, there was a thing called View Data, which was kind of a bulletin board, but it was a bulletin board meets teletext.
Oh, wow, exciting.
Well, yes, it's exciting. This is the best of two excellent things here. The main View Data service that people in the UK might have heard of is Prestel. It was a forerunner of the internet to a certain extent. And on there, you could do some shopping and you could book holidays and you could look up stock prices and you could find out what the weather was and all stuff like that. And it was brilliant. And that was my introduction to the idea of connected computers and networks and things like that. And I thought it was amazing. And Telstar is a recreation of a View Data service with all of the server software in there. And also you can download a View Data client, which is a bit like Telnet, but it has this particular character set baked into it, which allows you to do rudimentary graphics to a certain extent and, heading text and normal text. And the font is very nice. So if you're interested in just poking around in things from the past, like I suspect quite a lot of you are, then check out Telstar. You could, if you really wanted to, set up your own View Data service and allow people to telnet into it. Or you could just go and poke around on the default one that comes with the client. There's a bit of fun in there. People have set up a kind of bridge between a website that news headlines and this View Data system. So there is live news in there. It's quite nice to poke around. And if you got 10 minutes to spare, I would recommend downloading the client and just having a poke around and reliving the way things were in the 80s.
Right. For all you non-English types, can you help explain to me what a View Data system is? Is that CFAX? Is that what you used to have?
It's interactive CFAX, right? It's a bulletin board crossed with CFAX. So the text and the display is fixed by View Data. So you have particular character set, particular font sizes, and the layout is very standardized. But the interactivity of the bulletin board, where you can pull up a particular page and you can interact with that page rather than just viewing what's on the screen.
Fair enough. I was too disappointed after I discovered that this was not about the satellite Telstar that it took me a long time to get over that.
I now want to look to see whether someone's made an app for my smart TV that I can install. I'd love to do that.
That is actually kind of
Sit there with a beer, turn on my 65-inch OLED screen.
Writing bug reports about the kerning not being good at 4K.
It sounds great.
Phelim. PSMem.
Yeah, this is quite a nice utility. It's written in Python. It's installed through pip. I'm not sure if there's any other ways to get it. I don't think there are. But yeah, it's a nice way to actually find out proper memory usage, as in adds up the private and shared stuff to give you a better idea what is running and what is using what amount of memory. I was working on a system and there was a lot of weird things going on, and it was very hard to read top output realistically for all the things because there was a ridiculous number of processors and services that were running, and I wanted something to just print me a nice dump of what was going on.
And did you get to the bottom of it then?
Yes, it was using so little memory of the memory that was spec'd for it that I went, oh good, I hope nobody looks at that and goes, why the fuck did you spec that much? I'm sure they'll use it later though.
Bound to. And what's cookie cutter?
Right, so in an effort to slightly stem the, oh my god, I can't possibly deal with boilerplate code, so I therefore must give my entire life away to a LLM, I think people should use cookie cutter more. It's a project written by Audrey and Daniel Leroy or Delaroy or something like that. They have written a few Python books. They used to work at NASA, I think, as contractors. I got to them with a Django book that they used to write back in the day. It was years ago. And they're very good at writing stuff. And it is a way to kick off a project, and not just a Python project, but also C projects and various things like Django and a whole load of other ones there. There's in fact a template directory which has apparently 9,000 odd results in it, which is crazy. So if you're trying to start, say, a Django project, you can use a specific plugin template called Cookie Cutter Django, and it asks you a few questions, you kick it off, and then it pre-populates all that stuff for you. So you have to do less of the overhead of getting things up and running. And there's loads of different ones there, and I just thought people who might be writing stuff like that would want to have a look.
It's not as good as Copilot though, is it?
Yes, it is. It's much better because, do you know what? It's not stolen.
Well, it's BSD licensed, this project.
Yes, but that's fine.
Oh, is it? Ah.
It is for a project that's been used in multiple languages, yes.
All right. Loves AI.
No.
Loves Microsoft. Loves BSD licenses.
Fuck you.
We need some safe word for the real failing.
Have to blink under duress.
Fail.
Help.
Graham, studying tectonic plates with G plates.
Okay, I admit I know nothing about what I'm talking about here. I haven't done anything about geology since I was at school a long, long time ago. But G plates is the geological equivalent of what stellarium is for stars. It basically allows you to study plate tectonics inside the Earth. I think it makes the assumption that the Earth is a sphere. So before everything went flat, it's completely open source, developed by University of Sydney in Australia. And it comes with these hugely complicated data sets that basically are the results of simulation of the movement in plate tectonics since the creation of the Earth. So all of the continents moving, but even before there were continents. It's really complicated because there's a lot of forces in play, obviously, and I don't understand any of this, but it displays all of this information in a 3D globe over a period of time where you can map the colors and the forces and the division between the plates and set time divisions, and you can play animations, see how they crash into one another and form the continents that we recognize, how the mountains are raised up, see all the kind of, I don't know the technical terms for it, the movements that are going beneath the plates to kind of push and pull them in all directions. And even when you know nothing, as I know nothing, I easily spent like 45 minutes with this on a Sunday morning, just playing around with it and wondering at the whole thing. It's an incredible project.
That is absolutely amazing. I studied geology when I did science in university, but it was one of my subjects I had to start off with, and I did it for either 1 or 2 years. Jeez, I can't remember at this point, but this is absolutely amazing because you have this model in your head, if you've done it, where the plates are like a scum of, like, you know, when you boil milk and you've got like that fat layer on top that goes hard, and you're thinking that it's literally hard bit sitting on top of liquid. Whereas even the first image that they have in their demo, how it runs, where you're thinking, oh, Jesus Christ, it's 3D all the way down with cooling at different levels and then they're all moving at different parts. It's like, it's mind blowing. Absolutely brilliant. This is amazing. And I wish we'd had it back in the day.
It's the same with the lighting rig setup from last time. I can't believe these projects, that this has been going for like a long time as well, 15 years. We don't necessarily hear about them, and they're so kind of ingrained within their little domains. But there they are, and we can download them and just run them on our Linux desktop. It's amazing.
Is there a snap of it yet, Graham?
Oh, you had to ruin it, didn't you?
Yeah, sorry.
Well, I've discovered Uxplay, thanks to an article from Jory at OMG Ubuntu. And what this allows you to do is mirror your iPhone or iPad onto an Ubuntu desktop. So if you're fully all in on the Apple ecosystem, you can use a thing called AirPlay, apparently, to do this sort of thing between a phone and a Mac. But this is just an open source server. And so you install it just from the Ubuntu repos, run it, and then my iPad just saw it, and I was able to just mirror my iPad screen. And the latency is reasonably good, I would say. I tried watching a video, and that was a bit choppy. But if you wanted to do a presentation, I don't know. It seems to me like a cool thing that I can't really think of a use for, unfortunately. Because if you've got an Ubuntu desktop, then you could just probably do it on that anyway. But nevertheless, it's cool that someone has done this.
Yeah, I think if you've got a daughter who wants to show you her Snapchat timeline, she can just load it up on your Ubuntu desktop and flick through it that way.
Yeah, I'm sure she'd be really keen to do that. Yeah.
Well, just as you were talking, Joe, I sudo apt installed it and ta-da, it works. It's brilliant. What I can see this useful for is if I was developing an app on Linux for an iPhone, which would be difficult because you've got to use a Mac, but nevertheless, pretend that that was possible. And then you want to write a presentation and show an example of using the app, and you want to do that on Linux, then you can record the screen remotely, edit it as you see fit. I think there's quite a lot of uses for this. This looks handy.
Even if it's not useful, it's certainly a cool novelty. I'm just praying that when you fired up that server, it didn't fuck with your audio recording, Will.
No, it looks fine to me.
Well, we'll see if this episode ever airs. Okay, this episode is sponsored by Kolide. What do you call an endpoint security product that works perfectly but makes users miserable? A failure. The old approach to endpoint security is to lock down employee devices and roll out changes through forced restarts, but it just doesn't work. IT is miserable because they've got a mountain of support tickets, employees start using personal devices to get their work done, and executives opt out the first time it makes them late for a meeting. You can't have a successful security implementation unless you work with end users. That's where Kolide comes in. Their user-first device trust solution notifies users as soon as it detects an issue on their device and teaches them how to solve it without needing help from IT. That way, untrusted devices are blocked from authenticating, but users don't stay blocked. Kolide is designed for companies with Okta, and it works on macOS, Windows, Linux, and mobile devices. So if you have Okta and you're looking for a device trust solution that respects your team, support the show and go to kolide.com/late-night-linux to watch a demo and see how it works. That's kolide.com/late-night-linux. On to a bit of admin then. First of all, thank you everyone who supports us with PayPal and Patreon. We really do appreciate that. If you want to join those people, you can go to late-night-linux.com/support. And remember that for various amounts on Patreon, you can get an advert-free RSS feed of either this show or all the shows in the Late Night Linux family. And you even get some episodes early. And if you want to get in contact with us, you can email show@latenightlinux.com. Graham, using a Garmin watch as a home assistant remote control.
Yeah, and I think I've talked about this before because we've got some lights in the bedroom and I don't have a phone in the bedroom. I don't like to take my phone at the bedroom and I like to control the lights. You know, I think I joked that I like to have a romantic setting and set everything to like, the smooth jazz coming on and the lights dimming. So I've been looking for a way to do this with my watch. And there hasn't been a good way. There's been kind of hacks. But just recently, somebody's written a Garmin Home Assistant plugin and script that is a perfect solution for this. There's a couple of caveats in that you need to have Home Assistant with a static IP address that's accessible from the internet. You need to have HTTPS enabled on it as well. If you can satisfy both of those things, then the script is really easy to set up. You basically install the script, you build a configuration YAML file for what you want to put on your watch. So the names of the devices in the YAML and the switches. You can also, there's toggle switches and there's a few other options. And then you install it as like a widget and then there's a widget on your Garmin watch you install, and that will connect to the IP address of your Home Assistant. And it works perfectly. It's a really great solution. It's the slickest I've seen. Your watch needs to be of the kind that either is constantly in contact with your phone through Bluetooth or has Wi-Fi itself. But otherwise, I found it works perfectly.
Do you use it though?
I do use it for the lights in the bedroom, yeah.
Okay.
It's because that I like to have the lights on low and kind of read and then just go to sleep. And it's a Hue bulb in there, and I could just turn it off, which is what I did before. But this, I've got my watch on. I just switch one button to the widget and then turn it off.
Yeah.
What you need is one of those old school American clappers. Clap on, clap off.
It is actually the only setting I've got on my watch, so it is a bit underused. I need to put a few more things on there, but you can also put data on the watch from your Home Assistant as well. I've not done any of that, but in theory, it can update. You can look at certain stats as well.
Well, recently I mentioned damn small Linux. It turns out TinyCore is also alive, and this is even smaller. And I know that you do not give a flying fuck about this failing, but I do. It's so cool. It's so cool. It uses so little RAM.
And does so little of use.
You can install Firefox on it. You can install VLC on it.
Cool.
It's amazing.
And what do you do once you've installed that? Have you used up all the memory at that point? It just shites itself.
No. Even once you've got those applications running, it is so lightweight that it's using hardly any RAM at all. If you've got a shitty old ThinkPad or something that's 32-bit only,
throw it in the bin,
and got like 256 megabytes of RAM or something, then stick this on it and it'll be a usable machine.
Recycle it.
No.
Do the world a favour.
Hoard it. Well, I just thought it was interesting that TinyCore is also still alive and still making new releases. So the world feels right somehow. Will, screenshot to code.
This is a combination of AI bullshit and black magic.
Boo.
It's quite extraordinary.
Boo.
You download this software and it's got a whole bunch of AI stuff in it that you need to use, but you just make it work. Then you take a screenshot of a website and give it to it, and it will recreate that website, the exact layout of it, in, like, for example, React or HTML5, and it will just spit out the code to make it work. It uses, by default, GPT-4 Vision, but they've just added Claude 3 support. I don't really know what that means. It's some kind of new AI thing. But GPT-4 Vision is especially good at this kind of thing. And you can also have it generate the content for your newly ripped off website automatically as well. So it can use DALL-E, for example, to create pictures for your new website and populate them and add text and all of that kind of thing. It's quite extraordinary. As a web developer, I think I could use this to take a mock-up from a designer and turn it into React in probably about a minute. And that would save me a lot of effort. There's still going to have to be tweaking and fine detailing needs to be done, but you could get the bulk of the layout done in moments. It's really quite a time saver, I think.
I do wonder what the quality of the code would be, though, and how much you'd have to fix it up and whether you're just better off writing it from scratch in the first place.
Well, this is the great thing about React. Nobody can tell.
Touché.
And I'd also be worried about plagiarism and, licenses, that sort of thing. I don't think I'd want to do it for production, but to make a quick demo, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. It's those quick demos that turn into a web of lies, and then you just end up productizing the whole thing. It's like, yeah, I know it was animated GIFs, but I didn't mean it to go this far.
So it looks like it doesn't just do React then. It'll do HTML and Tailwind CSS, or React, or Bootstrap, or Vue. So it's pretty flexible then. Maybe this could be more useful than I thought.
Is that you doing Taylor Swift's Instagram page there, Joe?
No, that's a complete coincidence. I happened to see that. And that's not at all what sold me on this or anything.
Yeah,
I'm disappointed by the images that it created, though. Nothing like Taylor Swift.
You would know.
Right, well, we better get out of here then. We'll be back next week when it'll probably be news and stuff. But until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Phelan.
I've been Graham.
And I've been Will.
See you later.